Good morning. You know what's good about Tuesday mornings? That's right. It's time for the Kitchings Table. You know. Good morning. I'm your host, W. Earl Kitchings. Joining me on these Tuesday mornings is always my co-host, Miss Ronleen Kennedy. Good morning, Ronleen.
Good morning, Earl. It
Did
is.
you have an answer to that question?
Yes, it's Tuesday. No, not a and. Yeah, no, it's Tuesday morning, y'all. It's time to get this party started.
All right. Yes, indeed. It is Tuesday morning. It is November the 14th, just for those of you who may be wondering, what is he talking about? But we are happy to be with you again on this Tuesday morning to bring you another episode of the Kitchings Table. As you know, we always like to find something interesting, unique, knowledgeable, wisdom wise, historic, whatever hits our purview, whatever hits that's something we ought to talk about or bring up. That's what we make an effort to do. And I think we've done an absolute fantastic job for, Ron Linus, has it been almost 3 years?
Yes, we've been doing something for almost 3 years.
Wow.
We carried you all through the pandemic.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like it, but I know for a fact that it's been that long because, like you say, when we can all reference the pandemic when it started, yeah, okay, well, it's been that long. So we are just happy that we've been able to sustain this show. We'd like to thank the staff and management from Awesome Radio for giving us an opportunity to start it and helping us to keep it going because, without opportunities, nothing goes forward. And without that opportunity, we would not be here with you this morning. So thanks again, Ms. Akila Thigpen, for your diligent support and opportunities to make this happen. So today, Ronleen, it hit me that so many things are dealing with legal matters. I'm sure there's always been that. However, I don't know if the level of legal issues has ever been as dominant or as impactful or as crazy or as just unreal. I mean, whatever adverb you want to add to that, that's what it seems like is happening. Um, Washington, D.C. has always been that place where a lot of swirling politics and politics, i.e., law, swirl around. You have Congress, you have the Supreme Court. Those two factions of our 3-point system of governing this country always seem to have something going on. And if you throw in the president and the things he deals with and talks about and what his staff is bringing to him every day, this whirlwind of legal matters is constant. But for whatever reason, it seems to be more dominating on the landscape of news or things people are talking about, or just the way people are reacting or things people are doing. And it's a beautiful thing now that we can get our news and information so instant. I mean, within a matter of seconds, something is put out for you to know. We don't have to wait on the radio reports anymore like we once did. Definitely don't have to wait on that daily newspaper to come out to tell us about yesterday's news. It's happening right now, instantaneously, and it's all because of the WWW. And that World Wide Web is a facilitator of so much. But I'm bringing this up simply because as I'm looking at some of the things that are happening online and the news that's going on, it's something that we have to be mindful of, that there are just a faction of people who seem to be not really taking into account some of the things they say or do or say and do because they are so caught up in the belief of an individual who is not about doing things righteously, not for justice, not for truth, but for self and for all the things that are umbrella under making things the or taking things back to like they once were. So all these legal matters are going on. Uh, for first time in the history of this country, you saw insurrection happen. And I was looking at one of my favorite news TV shows is Rachel Maddow, and she brought up the point that before January 6th, there was a trial run to see how, I guess, the police or the authorities would respond to something like this. But they had a trial run in December of 2020 just to see what would happen. So when they decided that, okay, well, we can really make this happen in 2021 the way they did, they had already tested it. And once they tested it, when people get confidence or feel like they can do what they want to do when they want to do it, then they're going to act on those thoughts, ideas, and or emotions. And nowadays, it just seems like people are so caught up in their emotions about many things, especially legal things that years ago you wouldn't have seen people take a stance on. But now it's not that case. And when we talk about the fact that legally folks want to overthrow the government, they want to change the government from a democracy to perhaps an autocracy. Uh, for those of you who believe in that, uh, and out here always spewing hatred and violence and the belief that things were stolen and things were done a different way, and whatever your mindset is, just understand that when you put those powers that you feel ought to be in office, you as peons, you're not at that upper level, you're down in that middle to low level. You're not going to be considered for anything. You're not going to your thoughts and ideas and things like that, they aren't going to be considered. The same laws you want to enact or the same things you want enacted will work against you when those in power that you want in power take over, because all that would matter to them is their small circle. And you who are out here always talking about things that seem to be on a negative side or believe that people are trying to take things away from you, or as the ex-president likes to talk about, I'm fighting for you because they're trying to hurt you. He does not care at all. He just wants to be in POWER. That's all that matters. He is so power struck now. So to hear some of the things he's saying and proclaiming, to hear the followers and all the legal issues that are surrounding many of the things that happen. Our topic for today is the law. And not so much that I'm going to maybe focus on lawful things, but just to give you some idea of the statistical things maybe that law compared to other things in America, how everything kind of lines up. So you can kind of see how a lot of this is going and the structure of what's going on and things like that. So that's where I am today with our topic is the law. So let me just jump on in and get us started. Each day there are thousands of legal issues and disputes that must be settled. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, every day, thousands. And each legal case overseen, heard, and administered by judges. That's the only way you're going to resolve it. It has to go to court, and it's going to be heard by a judge. Add those numbers to the number of legislative issues that are proposed and bills passed by quote unquote lawmakers. Lawmakers, not lawyers, lawmakers, not movers and shakers, but lawmakers. They become the movers and shakers. But when we look at the bills that are proposed and passed, and it shows how important the law is for a number of outcomes. And in 2023, there are so many outcomes that face the court system each and every day, from criminal cases. And when I did some of the research to look at the numbers on some of these things, it's like, oh wow, you would think one way, you would think it would be in one direction, but really it's in a total opposite. So when we talk about criminal cases, civil cases, medical, what they like to call medical cases, personal injury cases, when we look at these issues and these matters and these disputes, it's interesting to see the numbers and how these numbers line up, because if there are thousands of cases going on every day, if there were more people to handle them, things would go faster, but it's not structured that way. And I'm going to break down some of the numbers for us this morning so that you can have a better perspective, a different perspective, if you will, about how some of this lays out, because thousands of cases each and every day in court, cities and states. I mean, that's a lot of legal matters to be resolved. And I don't know on an average how many cases a judge listens to. I will tell you this. I know how many cases a judge will listen to when we're talking about traffic citations, because I've been a part of that. I was in a courtroom one time where I know for a fact it had to be 20 traffic citations before the judge. 20. I mean, I don't think judges usually listen to, for civil and other cases, that many, but in traffic court, oh yeah, because some of it goes fast and some of it takes a little while to resolve. But this particular day, Ronleen, I was in traffic court in DeKalb County for a violation. I made a wrong turn during a time when you're not supposed. For instance, well, it was set up like this: you're at a light, and it says you can turn left anytime except between 3 and 3:15. Okay, got it. It's a little after 3. No traffic. I make a turn. Officer is there. I get cited. I go to court. And this is what really just shocked me. When the judge came into the courtroom, his opening statement was, everyone might as well plead guilty today. That'll be your best bet. This is the judge making this broad comment. And I'm saying to myself, so he didn't get up on the right side of the bed. Misjudged and pissed him off this morning. He hadn't had his coffee. I don't know. I would never heard anything like that in my life. You should plead guilty. Just go ahead and plead guilty. So I did get fined. I tried to plead my case to the judge. He wasn't hearing it. But anyway, so when we talk about the law and cases and things of that nature, there are just so many disputes and outcomes that are reached each and every day. or some of them are just moved on, delayed. More evidence, more information is needed. But when we break down numbers and just give you these numbers that I'm going to share with you today, and I want everyone to think about, if you ever go into court, traffic court or other court, I just want you to think about the fact that when you're sitting in there, when they let you in, if you had a criminal case for real, they want you to be absolutely quiet. Sit down, don't say a word, don't say anything, don't breathe, don't sneeze, don't get up to get any water, nothing. Judge comes in, and the lawyers go through the motions, back and forth, back and forth. Judge is listening to make a decision. So I want you to think about the times you've gone to court either as an observer or a participant, and think about the judge as one judge. When you're listening to a court case, there are two attorneys and their staff members. And just think about the whole atmosphere of that courtroom and what's going on and how you listen and learn. I hope that you are sitting there listening and learning, because your day may come where you'll be like, wow, okay, let me be mindful of that, or make sure I don't ever do something like that, because I don't want to have that happen in my case, or I don't want to come before that judge. Because Ronlene, you've had some experience in law, and you know that there are some judges you don't want your case to come before them, because it's not going to be pretty.
No,
not going to be pretty. So I want to start down this path of bringing numbers to everyone. So now, if I ask you, how many colleges would you guess are in America? How many colleges?
I know there are some that's popping up, so we're gonna go with the number around 6,000 or more, probably 12,000.
Well, it's not 12,000, but you're very accurate when you say 6,000.
Okay.
So there are 6,000. I want these numbers to resonate. There are 6,000 colleges. And I don't know, maybe I should have put in colleges and universities, but I figure colleges covers everything. So 6,000 of them in America. That breaks down to roughly what? 120 per state?
Yeah.
Okay. 6,000. That's it. That's it. Then I said, well, okay, let's see now. Let's look at some of the career paths or professions. So now, most times when we talk about a career path or profession, two things pop up: doctor, lawyer, lawyer, doctor. I mean, that seems to be the first two things that pop up. Supposedly very admirable occupations. Well, I can maybe say that for the most part about a physician. In this day and time, man, I tell you, some of these lawyers, depending on what area of law they're practicing, you have to bite your lip with some of them. But so, number of medical colleges or medical schools in America. Now, there are 6,000 colleges. Of that, 155 medical colleges in America. 155. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
2 per state almost, huh?
Almost. So when we look at all the physicians who are holding medical degrees, and it takes, from start to finish, it takes 10 years to get that medical degree. Once you're in a college and you want to be a doctor, it takes about 10 years. So, but there are only 155 medical colleges. Then we talk about business schools or business colleges. And I put that in there because if you're not in medicine or law, more than likely you're in business. I know that there's some other schools out there, for instance, like engineering schools, but I chose business, and there are 800 plus business schools. Now, once again, remember there are only 6,000 colleges, so there are 800 business schools that are associated with or independent of colleges throughout America. 800. So if you want to earn your MBA, not just get your BA, but if you want to earn your MBA, your Master's of Business Administration, you have about 800 choices. Now, here's where we get into the meat and potatoes. Number of law schools in America.
Hmm.
Number of law schools in America. Hmm. Approximately 200. Approximately 200. Not 200 plus, approximately 200. And when I did the research, it was like borderline 200. So I just like approximately 200. Okay. 201, 199. Okay. In that range.
Right.
So of that, there are 6 black law schools in America of that 200.
Okay.
Only 6. Only 6. There are approximately 110 plus black colleges throughout America, but of that 110, only 6 of them have law schools. And only a few of them have recently reclaimed or brought back their law schools. And I know Florida A&M is one of them. When I was growing up, when I was young, they had a law school on campus, and then it went away. Then they brought it back maybe almost 20 years ago. But here are the names of the black law schools. And the last one I'm going to give you, it was not a traditional black college, a traditional HBCU. I think it evolved into this. But now that it's probably predominantly black, they probably give it the title of black. Texas Southern and the Thurgood Marshall School of Law, Southern University, North Carolina Central, Howard University, Florida A&M University, and the University of the District of Columbia. That's it. Of the approximate 200 schools of law in America, those are the 6 that are on black college campuses. So now we go into the other numbers. How many lawyers, Ronlene, would you guess are in America? How many lawyers?
Uh, I would say a couple of million.
Okay.
And then it's probably a little less than that because they do die, that kind of thing, or lose their license. But yeah, between
Okay.
a billion and two.
So the internet states that there are 1.3 million lawyers.
Okay.
1.3 million lawyers. For a country that has 330 plus million people, 1.3 seems like a very low number, but that's what we have. And by race, there are 61,000 black attorneys and 6,500 Native American attorneys, by my calculations. Black lawyers make up 4.7%. Native Americans make up 0.5%, half a percent, half of 1%. That's what they make up. Now, when we look at lawyers by what type of cases they represent, would you have an idea of what most lawyers, what their cases involved? Would you have any idea?
Yes, wrongful death,
Okay.
personal injury,
Okay.
and then of course criminal, and then you have family.
Okay.
And then
So there
probate,
are, huh?
and then probate would be probably the least one,
Okay.
but it's definitely a factor.
So as you can see, Ronleen knows a little about these law statistics. So the largest area of practice in America, personal injury lawyers, personal injury, 92,000 plus. 92,000 plus. So the next time you see the commercial on TV, and it's interesting, I always have to laugh because I seldom see a personal injury law firm with a singular name. I rarely see that. It's a name and the name repeated, you know. And here in Florida, we get inundated every day with some of the names Harold and Harold, Farah and Farah, and of course, the largest personal injury firm in America, Morgan and Morgan. Morgan and Morgan, the largest in America. So there are 92,000 personal injury lawyers and a total of 64,000 law firms in general.
Mm.
There are 7,200 plus criminal lawyers. 7,200 versus 92,000. Hmm. Mm-mm. Boy, if you committed a crime, your opportunity to find somebody who hopefully is good, first and foremost, is very limited. And then on the opposite side of the 7,200 criminal lawyers, there are 252,000 defense attorneys.
Mhm.
Defense attorneys, 252,000. Wow. Seems is I don't know if that's a good balance or not, but man. So those are the numbers for that part of what we're talking about when we're saying it's the law. So now let me go to the number of district attorneys, Ron Lean, because these are the prosecutors, state prosecutors, federal prosecutors. So I found out that there are 30,000 plus district attorneys. 30,000 plus. Here's the breakdown. 95% of those are white and 79% of those are male.
Mm.
Of the 30,000, of the 30,000, 95% of them are white and 79% of them are male. There are approximately 1,500 black district attorneys. They make up 5.26%.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
those numbers blow me away.
Because if you're on trial and you're dealing with a district attorney's case, most times you're not going to see a black the black district attorney trying the case. Most times we see some, and if you break it down, by state, that's basically what 30 or 300 per state, basically. So relative numbers, and then in most states there are no elected. In most states, in most states, there are no elected black district attorneys, which means they must have been appointed. because when you run for that position, and it's a numbers game from the population that the census gives us of 333 million plus Americans, it's a numbers game. And if there are no elected black district attorneys, meaning they were appointed, okay, it doesn't matter, sometimes how you get in the game, you just want to be in the game. So, district attorneys, lawyers, those are the numbers. And then finally, at the top of that legal system, Ronleen, those individuals we call who? The judges. Judges. Number of judges in America. 870, 870. That's it. Not even 1,000. And of that 870, 289 are black. So it's a tough going. So I'm going to pause right there before I get to the rest of this interesting statistical outline I'm giving you, because you are looking and watching and listening to the Kitchings Table, heard and seen every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. here on YouTube. And we are happy to be with you each and every Tuesday morning to bring you our view on some of the things that we feel are important, interesting, fun. We try to be very diverse. Would you agree, Ronley? We making an effort to be diverse. We don't just pick out, I definitely try to stay away from political and religious topics because that becomes a little too personal. Mm-hmm. Some people's feelings jump in there, man, and the next thing you know, man, the chat is blowing up because people are, mad because I'm talking about something, and I'm like, no, stay away from that because that's just too volatile. You want to self-implode, okay, but not here on the Kitchings Table. We're not going to self-implode. But every Tuesday morning here at 10 o'clock, you can join us for our show. And we thank you for joining us, and we thank you for any comments that you send to us via chat. So I'm going to continue, Ronleen, with these numbers. So now that we've heard the number of law schools, 200 law schools produce 1.3 million attorneys. See, I'm bringing that back around. Mm-hmm. 200 law schools produce 1.3 million attorneys. Of that, 61,000 are black, and 6 law schools are black. So you can break those numbers down again if you so choose. And then when we get into the number of type cases many of these lawyers are performing in, and most of them are personal injury lawyers. So, as they say, they're following the money. More money, more money, more money. We're going to be a personal injury lawyer, and I'm going to get that money. And the next thing you know, I'm the largest personal injury law firm in America. I got jets, and I can fly my people around the country, and we can, boy, you're in a personal injury lawsuit. And when the defense attorney introduces themselves and says John Doe for the defense, Morgan & Morgan law firm for the defense, people start shaking in their boots because, man, they got a high percentage of winning. How do you know that? Because in one of their commercials, they show you the settlements they've gotten. And they tell you, if we don't win, you don't have to pay. But now, Ronley, help us out with this. What is the nominal fee, percentage-wise, for an attorney winning, say, a personal injury lawsuit? What would that percentage be?
For non-jury trials, we're talking 33.5%, but for jury trials, 40% and more. That's not cost.
That's not what?
including the cost.
What would the cost be?
The cost would be anything. Remember, the staff has to be paid.
That's
So
included in the cost. They don't get it out of that 40%.
the staff is working. So every document that needs to be copied, everything that when you see the trial notebook comes to court, that means medical records, everything, all of that cost. And when you have companies just charging $3 and $4 to $5, $6 a page, and we're talking about, if you go and have surgery, that can yield up to 60 pages or whatever just in one thing. So um, talking about 60 pages times a couple of doctors who all was in, doing the surgery or whatever, you have massive costs there.
Okay. 40%.
Yes.
So for every $1 million, they make 400,000.
Yes.
Mm, mm, mm. Man, oh man.
Not to mention the cost that's involved with
I'm
getting
not even talking about the cost. The cost that's all over the place. You can't give me a hard figure on a cost because it's like, well, that's kind of hard to determine because every law firm has a different way of structuring their fees. Okay, but you can definitely tell me that 40%. So when they finalize the case and award the settlement, and they say, well, sir, you've won $100 million in your settlement. The law firm is like, well, let's see now, 40 million of that comes to us. And more than likely another 10%, I would say, maybe, is the fees. So, you get 50, we get 50, who's mad? On 100 million? Now I'm not too mad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too mad. It's more than what I had. But 40% or 33%, that's interesting. So these personal injury lawyers, they earn their money. Unlike criminal lawyers, they don't see that type of money, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they do, depending on who you are,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what case it is and things of that nature. But anyway, so you got the lawyers, the district attorneys, the judges, and we live in a country of 333 million plus people. So now we're gonna take it to the flip side of all of that positive stuff about attorneys and law schools and who they are and what they practice and things like that. So the flip side of that is this. Civil cases is all about money. Is that an accurate assessment, Ronleen? Civil cases are primarily about money,
Yes.
monetary settlements for the
Right.
most part. 90% will be monetary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But criminal, that's a whole different thing. That settlement is called time. That settlement is called time. You're going to pay with some time, not money. Yeah, you might pay with some money too, but primarily you're going to pay with some time
Mm-hmm.
and or life. And I don't mean life in prison. I mean your personal life. You're going to lose your life after you've served some time. You're going to give us the time. So in a population of 333 million people, our U.S. prison population, which is the largest in the world, 1.2 million people are incarcerated in the United States prison system. So I had to break that down, Ronleen. I had to break it down. So do you want me to go through the number of prisons first, or you want me to go by the breakdown of what the makeup of that population is?
Let's start with the number of prisons. Let's break it.
Okay. All right. So we have state and we have federal prisons. There are 122 federal prisons / installations. And I broke that down because it's interesting how they term federal installations. U.S. penitentiaries. Now, I went from prisons to U.S. penitentiaries. That's what they call their high security facilities.
Okay.
There are 16 of those, high security. You know, you in some deep trouble. Yeah.
Okay.
Federal correctional institutions, medium to low security. Then there are administrative facilities, pretrial offenders. Before you actually go to trial, they have to keep you there. And 19 of those. And then there are prison camps. Prison Camp 7. So at the federal level, it's broken down into three categories. White collar and political is that where you might see a lot of people in federal correctional institutions because it's low level. There is no appeal in the federal court system. You will serve every day of your sentence if you get charged with a federal crime. Every day. So if you get three years, you will serve all 3 years to the minute. There is no appeal. If you've been convicted of a federal crime, there is no appeal. That's it, done, it's over. So that's federal. There are 1,115 state prisons. So when you commit a state crime, you go to state prison. You can't appeal those. You need an attorney to appeal those, and maybe you can, get out based on appeal, based on you having done some good while you were there. So those are the prisons: 122 federal, 1,115 state, and every state has a federal prison. Every state. So there are 50 of the 122. There's one in each state. Now, I think if you commit a federal crime in Alaska, I think they just put you in the outdoor internment federal prison camp, and that cold weather there's enough. You wouldn't have to imprison. You wouldn't have to really imprison anybody up there in that frigid weather. It's like, no, man. If you want to be out there in that cold weather, fine, okay. You go ahead and try to escape, but it's cold. But that's where that is. So now, prison population of the 1.2 million. Of the 333 million plus citizens in the United States, the census population declares that 192 million people are white, 63 million are Latino, and 47 million plus are Black. But when we look at the prison population, here's a breakdown. 349 white prisoners per 100,000 people. For Latino, 261 prisoners per 100,000 people. For Black Americans, 1,240 prisoners per 100,000 people. That is the breakdown. That is the breakdown. So incarcerated, there are about 670,000 whites, 582,000 Blacks, and about 164,000 plus Latino prisoners in that U.S. population of 1.2 million, give or take a few. So third on the population list in a country, first on the imprisonment list. There's an imbalance, but they want it to be this imbalance simply because it is a control thing. When we control and minimize populations, we're on the mentality and the physicalness of a community. So that is the breakdown, Ron Lee. That's my pitch today for It's the Law, so people will know how the numbers line up. So now it's time for Ron Lean's Black History Fact of the Day. Ron Lean, take it away.
Well, I'm still caught up on the numbers, and who I'm talking about today is Earl David Shaw. He was a he yeah he is he's still living. He's a physicist, and he's been practicing that since the 1960s. Um, as a child, he grew up in Mississippi. He grew up on the Hobson plantation, and he was born November the 26th, 1937. And while he was in high school out there in Mississippi, someone introduced him to physics, and that intrigued him. And when I listen to the numbers today about the number of attorneys that we have that are in the different ethnic groups, I realize that when it comes down to physics, that that doesn't get the attention that it deserves. We need more people on the ground learning about these about how things work in the physics, and what Dr. Shaw was credited with, along with his with the co-founder, um, Dr. Patel, is there was a magnetic machine called a tunable magnetic machine that was able to turn the data that you receive when you're doing like let's say treatments for cells or treatment for cancer. You know, the data that they did on that brought it's in destroying the cells or whatever, or how um, you're trying to destroy the cancer, but you don't want to destroy the body. So they have they're trying to perfect that, and I brought that to you all today because it is being in nuclear medicine, being in anything that's dealing with the atoms or the electrons and things like that. That just sounds so scary. It just sounds like in our African American population, oh, stay away from the water because we can't swim. Well, learn how to teach your children to become mathematicians so that these areas of life that, as we depend on it, do not become extinct because we don't have anyone practicing those kind of things. So that is my take on the Dr. Earl Shaw, and read his thesis. His thesis was published in October 1969. It's called The Nuclear Relaxation of Ferromagnetic Cobalt. He became a professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Rutgers University. He and his son, Alan Shaw, who is a computer scientist, they're featured in a book called The Black Genius. And I don't know if you ever heard of The Black Genius before, but yes, they're featured there. So go out there and read that and try to inspire some children, because he was inspired as a child and carried that to his adult years. And as far as I know, he hasn't died yet. He's either 87 or he's 89. They don't seem to be able to agree on the year that he was born in, but he is out there somewhere, probably at Rutgers University still, doing something good for us. I turn it over to
Okay.
you.
Well, there you go, Dr. Earl Shaw. Thank you for that piece, Ronline. It's always good to get some information about a great Black American and their contributions to society and communities throughout this country. And you're right, we need more of our children to aspire to want to be more than an entertainer. And I'm gonna use that broad title, entertainer, because entertainment is not just music or TV or the movies. Entertainment is also umbrella under the word sports. That's what sports is. It's entertainment. It's not um, like professions such as what this gentleman does, a physicist and scientist. Entertainment is to entertain people. And a lot of people make good livings at entertaining through sports, but it's entertainment. If you took it away tomorrow, it would not have the same devastating impact if you took away the profession of physicians. So thank you again for bringing us that. Well, everybody, just when you sit down and start that second cup of coffee, it's time for us to go. We've enjoyed being with you this morning on our topic, It's the Law. Hopefully some of the information and statistics became eye-popping to you or just made you go, wow. We hope that Ron Lean's segment about Black history, an individual, gave you some insight into one other individual who is making contributions. So until next Tuesday morning, we ask you to join us here on the Kitchings Table. For my co-host, Ron Lean Kennedy, I'm your host, W. Earl Kitchings. Until next Tuesday, we say have a great week. And as always, do something good for somebody else today. Take care, everybody.